Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be back. We lost a week there, but today I have a very special guest, Miss Emma Weatherall, and she's got quite the story to share with you. So, welcome, Emma. Why don't you kind of give everyone a little bit of who you are, what you do, and what your family dynamic is?
Sure. I'm Emma. I'm really happy to be here with you, Ariana. So I'm actually a single parent, and I have one little boy. And what I do is I help other parent entrepreneurs to start their businesses if they have an idea and they want to kind of get it going, or if they have a physical business, I help them transfer it online so they can run it better around their children. Or if they already have one and they're kind of struggling with how to do that, kind of make it productive and grow it when we've got our families kind of, making everything more challenging, and kind of grow it to how they want it to get to.
I love that. I love that. It's very similar to a lot of the concepts that Tom and I teach. So it works out very well. We get along well, and apparently we're curly hair twins as well. So, so I'm gonna zone in on the big part right there. How has it been for you to be both a single parent as well as an entrepreneur at the same time?
Yeah, so it's funny actually, because on the one side it can seem really tricky. Like I can understand that it seems really scary, but actually the reason I became an entrepreneur was because I was a single parent. And I am not a single parent by choice. It was unexpected. So I found myself in that place that I'm sure loads of parents do, whether they have a partner or not, where you're kind of thinking, well, if I go back to work, if I go and get like a 9 to 5 or an evening job, you've got to pay for childcare, and then all your everything's going on that. You've got to be away from your kids so many hours in the day, and suddenly it either seems completely unpalatable because you had children because you wanted to enjoy time with them, or it seems like, why am I working? Because all my money is going on childcare.
Mm-hmm. It's the endless cycle.
So that's where I came from. And I thought, you know what, it's just me. My child has one parent. So yeah, it is a challenge. Time especially. I sometimes refer to myself as a double parent. I'm not a single parent. I do the job of two. And that's hard enough, when there's two of you. So, time is a challenge, but I think because I always had that from the beginning, it's not like I had to shift from having two to one, that I just was really, really clear about what my boundaries were, and, how to be really careful with my time so that I could spend the time that I wanted to with my son, because that was the whole point. So, it's funny because it doesn't seem, it is, there are days when I get really like, oh my God, just go and watch some TV. But it doesn't, in the long term, it doesn't seem like this is a really difficult decision that I made, because actually it was the easier one for me to be in charge of the time that I had, and to have all the time I wanted to with my son, especially when he was teeny tiny, which are like those golden days, that yes, you can't get back. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So when did you officially make the transition then into being an entrepreneur? Was it before you had him, or was it soon after when you were like, oh no, I need this?
So this is a funny story actually, because
yay, I like funny stories.
So bizarrely, I have never actually had a 9 to 5. So I was young when I had my son, and it's a little known fact among people, like people I know online, but I was a professional pianist before I had my son.
What? How have we not come across that little known fact before this?
I don't talk about it very much.
I feel like you've been holding back on us.
So that's what I did, and when he was born, I was like, this is not going to work. I can't get into that zone of like channeling creativity from like 9 in the morning to 9 at night. So it kind of went away. But it does mean that I've always been in charge of what I did. I've never so when I had him, there were a couple of weeks, a couple of months where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to make money and this is not going to work. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about jobs that I can get. And every time I looked at a job, I was like, I can't do that. And then, those, I don't know if you have them in America. So do you have like baby shows where like it's a really strong marketing thing that they have in the UK, which is where I was when I had Mika. And basically, it's a big show where there's like loads of brands, and they kind of funnel in new mums and expectant mums and families, and they try and sell them every single thing under the sun that you could possibly have for a baby. And you go in and it's literally like this cacophony of selling, and it's like Pampers and SMA, and everything's there. And I walked into it and I was just like, what the this is horrible. And I pretty much walked straight out. And then I thought, I'm quite a conscious parent. We eat really healthily. We try and use like natural products and like herbal treatments and things. And I thought there must be something that is slightly gentler. And that is a bit, I don't know. It sounds like you guys don't have that in America.
So we don't have them in New York, but Ashley Grant says that they do have them in Tampa, down in Florida. So I'm guessing it's probably just an area thing where, some states have them and others don't. I've not heard of one of those in New York, but we're not in the biggest city, so there's a chance that they have them somewhere in New York. That sounds a little crazy. I think being a new parent is overwhelming enough, but like to be bombarded with all of that stuff, I don't know what I would have done if I had walked into one of those, like as a pregnant person.
People are actually saying, yeah, she's right. And she said it's a baby expo. I think that's what they call them now, baby expos.
That makes sense.
Totally makes sense. They're just in these huge, exposition centers, and they just basically everything. And the other thing about it is they're all big brands. So what I had as well is I like to try and buy from small brands and from people who make stuff themselves. And so I was just basically I was ranting to all my friends and all my family. And there must be something. And I remember sitting there after Christmas. My son was about 13 months, and I was ranting and I was going on and on, like there must be something for parents who don't want all this crap, and who would like to, for people who want to sell. How can they compete in these big shows if they just make things at home? And my dad just said to me, well, why don't you do that? And I was like, what do you mean, why don't I do that? That's ridiculous. And this is a man he's a military man. Like he's lovely and he's sweet and he's supporting, but he's very much like, you should be a lawyer, you should be like a diplomat. He's not. And it was a real shock. And he was just like, well, you could do that. Why don't you do that? And I had no answer, because he was honestly asking me, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
And I just remember staring at him, holding my baby, and I was like, oh yeah, I could. And that was in January. And then the end of January, and then I started and I kind of called some people. I was like, would you like to sponsor me for this event that I'm just conceiving of that has never run before, but you want to spend money on it, I'm telling you. And then by, I think it was the end of March was the first one, March 25th in 2012. And it was amazing. And that was like that's kind of how I got into being an entrepreneur. That was like I ran an events business first of all, and that was the first thing. And we had thousands of parents locally turn up, loads of local sellers, handmade people. We partnered with like charities, kind of breastfeeding charities, and we have something called the NCT, which is the National Childbirth Trust, local sling carriers. And what the best thing about it was actually it brought together the local community. Like the people who came, it eventually became a national thing, and people would travel from around the country to come to the events. But actually each time there was such a local element about it, people coming together from groups, mum groups where they go with their babies, toddler groups, and it was just amazing. It was all over Twitter, and people were I did not do that much marketing at the time, except for like come to it, but all doing it for me and that's how I started.
That is awesome. I didn't know that story about you either. That is amazing. To have that support from your dad, like just tell you to go out and do it. I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of entrepreneurs have that struggle of not having anyone, in their corner to go out and say, yeah, you can totally do this. You need to go do this. You are so lucky to have a dad like that. That's awesome. And then to go out and actually do it. I mean, that must have been a lot of work for you to just jump into something that was a little bit foreign and then just do it.
Well, Do you know, first of all, I honestly wanted to do it, it wasn't a business at first. So that very first event was like a community event, and I made money off it, but it wasn't a lot. It was just, I needed to cover costs basically, yep. And then a little bit extra came in. And it was honestly, I just wanted to offer this. I wanted to help people who I was buying from, connect them with people who wanted to buy from them. And I knew so many parents who were wanting to buy natural products for their kids and couldn't find them. So I thought, right, I can help the people market. Yeah. And I can connect the people who actually want them and have that intersection. And then at the end of the event, I remember somebody coming and saying, so when's the next one, Emma? And I was like, next one? That was enough.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah. So yeah, it was a one-off thing at first, and then it became a business. Then I had to sit down and go, right, okay, so what can I do about this? But I didn't go into it thinking, how can this take off and how much work it would be. Mm-hmm. There wasn't, yeah.
So how did you eventually transition then from the event planning business into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I had the events that were running really well, and a lot of the small business owners were people who made things like cloth diapers or massage oils for babies or for mums that were made out of natural products, and they literally just kind of had an Etsy store. And they'd be asking me for ideas. Oh my goodness, you've got thousands of people here. How did you do that? So I started helping people to give them ideas about how they could market themselves. Because when I was a pianist, that's pretty much what you have to do all the time.
Yeah.
Come let me play. You want me at your concert.
You want me.
So I did that, and then a few friends who kind of had yoga practices, they kind of came to me and were like, you're all over Facebook. Can you show me how you do that? And so I helped them a bit. And then at our second event, I managed to secure some major sponsors. So I don't know if you know the company Weatherall.
Sounds familiar.
They're a German company, I think, but they're international, and they make natural products, basically everything from baby products to adult products, and they kind of cover every single base of skincare and toiletries. And I managed to secure them as a sponsor for the second event. And
wow.
Then I was amazing. And that was literally just a phone call, and they were like, yeah, we heard about that. Sounds good. And then from the back of that, they were like, well, can you help us with our UK marketing? Because we don't have a major presence over there, and you have exactly the kind of audience that we want to tap into. So then it kind of took off from there. I was actually working with other sponsors, because I then approached other sponsors saying, look, I'm doing this for Weatherall. Would you like me to do this for you? So every time I took on a sponsor, I would offer them a package of like the bare bones sponsorship package, or sponsorship with my marketing consultation. And that's how that moved into that. So then I was offering help to the small businesses and to the major companies. And I thought, there are so many mums coming to me. All the people who were kind of exhibiting at my events were mums. So there were so many mums coming to me, and I thought, do you know what? People want to do this. They want to run their passions. They want to make their products and get them out to people. And there's no one out there targeting, at the time anyway, mums in business specifically. So it kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. So I want to jump back and point out one little thing that you said, which was when you were looking for sponsors for the next event, all it took was one phone call. Yeah. For you to land that big brand. And I think that is a huge detail that we often forget about, or we often gloss over as online entrepreneurs, because everything is digital and everything is automated. And a lot of the successful salespeople out there continue to talk to us about how important it is to reach out and initiate a relationship with somebody and to get on the phone with people, because it's not, they probably wouldn't have responded the same way if you had just sent them an email. So the fact that you went and took that extra effort to put the phone call in actually landed you a huge sponsor. And I mean, all it took was that one little thing. So it's such a simple thing that you can do to reach out to those people. And I know it's hard these days because a lot of places don't list their phone numbers, or you have to go through all the motions to be able to get in touch with somebody who actually can say yes to you. But it's still worth trying, and it's still worth making that extra effort, because all it takes is one. And even if you have to make 10 calls before that, if the 10th one is the one that says yes, it can totally change the entire nature of your business.
Absolutely. And that's what I teach people now. But actually at the time, I didn't see it as making an extra effort for me. And this is actually what I try and tell people today is actually it's about cutting through the noise.
Mm-hmm.
People are tagging people all the time, even if it's just to say, oh my goodness, I love your skincare cream. Oh my goodness, I saw you at whatever and it was great. Even just to share pictures. And there's so much noise from customers, from people who are just following, even spam stuff, that if somebody was to reach out with a serious offer, it could really easily get lost.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing about it is I am always so, I just believe so strongly, in the same way that I believe that community is really important for businesses, I believe so strongly that the reason people do businesses with you is because of you.
Yes.
You can offer the same thing as, Judith down the road, but you're two completely different people. And I just thought, if I can speak to them and they can hear from me and hear the passion in my voice and hear me explain all the details, and also if they have questions to ask you, there's no delay of a couple of days. You can be straight there to say, well, these are the figures, or, this is the success rate, or whatever it is that they want to ask to reassure them. And you're right there and they can hear it from you. And it's so much more personable. I mean, I know we try and make social media and email as personable as possible, but you still can't beat actually a voice, and a person behind that. So I had never really thought about that it was just one phone call before, but you're right. Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to jump back and chat about was there's a lot of contention these days about starting a business with a passion or starting a business for what it is. And that's, that's a business. So going out and finding an idea that you think might work and going through all the motions and doing it. And what I find interesting is that you unknowingly started a business purely based off of a passion project, but you obviously found something that was necessary, that other people were passionate about. And even if you didn't know it at the time, it was a viable business model. So how did you happen to just come up with that? It's so amazing. I know your dad was kind of the idea man behind that, but the fact that you were willing to go out and research what you needed to do that, and like, how did you teach yourself kind of like what you needed to do? How did you figure out like, okay, well, I got to reach out to sponsors, and then I've got to figure out how to pull people in and, find the venue and do all the planning portions and all of that?
So I'm just going to ask for 2 seconds because my 7-year-old is trying to knock on the door and I'm sorry about that. But 2 seconds. What is people doing? Okay, Mickey, you're going to have to do it by yourself, okay? All right. Sorry.
It's okay. It's totally understandable on this show. That's what we're about. So,
so I know that you and Tom are really big on validation. And it's funny because although it wasn't deliberate, basically the process that I went through was exactly that. So I kind of needed my dad to call it out and say, well, you've got your validation here. But actually what I did was I was complaining about something that didn't exist. So that's a gap in the market. Yes, Justin, familypreneurs. This is the place to be. Sorry. Okay, you just have to press the home, baby. I asked you, okay? So I found a gap in the market, something that wasn't there. I had already had, another thing that I haven't mentioned, which is important in this, is that when I had my son and I split from my partner, I moved across the country to be in this city where my parents lived. So I didn't actually know anybody there. I mean, I made a few friends, but I didn't really know. So what I did for the first few months before this business started was I'd really consciously tried to build up a network of support from new people, from joining groups, from just kind of trying to connect with people because I didn't have that in the new city. So I had a really good network of people that were similar, had similar ideas to me about child rearing. I knew they liked similar products because we'd like talk about things, similar kind of conscious. I'm a bit of an alternative parent, so these people were a bit like that as well. So I knew that in this city, at least, there were loads of people like that. And they were also having the same struggles as me when it came to kind of what they were looking for, what they couldn't find. And in terms of kind of later on, not wanting to go back to work. So there was that gap in the market, but I also then had that kind of those people, that audience who were looking for something. So I knew then that there were those people too. And I know there are other kind of metrics that you look at, but those are the two key things. And although I've been complaining about that and saying, oh, I wish you could do this because there's these people and there's this and we could do it like this, I needed my dad, I needed somebody because I wasn't confident. Yeah. And he said, you can do it. You can be that person. And in terms of kind of planning it out, although I'm really creative, I have that kind of good juncture of being really pragmatic. So that's why I find that I do really well with my clients, because I can often see gaps and I'm just like, I'm a no BS kind of person. I just, I often feel like apologizing, but I'm really bossy and I just
don't apologize.
I'm just like, you just need to do this, this, and this. Okay. That's what you need to do. So just do it. And that's what I did with myself. I looked at it. I looked at the end goal and I said, this is what I want my event to look like. I had all these kind of dreams and ideas of, oh my goodness, we could do it like this. I looked at venues and there happened to be an amazing place where it was an outdoor place, but with a cover that would have been a really amazing thing. So I just said, I want it to look like this. What do I need to do to get that? I need this to happen, and this to happen. Okay, so what are the steps then in order to get each of those things? And I kind of reverse engineered it, which is basically...
Now you're speaking our language.
Exactly. And that's basically what I do on a day-to-day basis now. But at the time, it was literally just my pragmatism of, I want this. What do I need to do to get that?
I love it. I love it. So I want to jump over because Ashley had a question, and then I want to invite anyone else that's watching to ask any questions. And, if you're liking what we're talking about, show us some love. So we've got Ashley Grant wants to know, how do you handle rejection?
How do I handle rejection? I think I saw that flash up when we were talking about the calls, like trying to get sponsored. So I have always said to myself that I was an introvert, but in the course of kind of building my business and becoming more secure in it, I actually am not sure that I am. I think I was just insecure.
You can change, you can shift from one end to the other.
Exactly. So at the time, I was really insecure. I would shake and be so terrified before I made a call to one of these people, because to me, they were these giant companies and I was this one little person, and I was worried that I would call up and they would say, excuse me, what? No.
We all are thinking that in our heads, I know.
So what I did was I started small. So my very first sponsor that I got was, I'll answer that in a second, Ashley. So my very first company that I called was a small company locally, and they ran children's music workshops. But I knew that they were growing, and I'd spoken with the woman who ran it before about something unrelated. So I kind of had a relationship with her. And so I called her first. And what I thought is, if she says no, all I have to do is say, well, would you mind reaching out to a couple of other people or giving me the details of some other people who you think might be interested if you think this is a good opportunity? And even if she said no to that, I kind of thought, and I'll follow up by saying, I'm just going to send you some more details in the post. So even, maybe later on you want to think about it, and you can always come back to me. The channel's open if you're interested to come back. So that way I felt like, even though it was a no from her end, I had still left things open so that she could come back to me. And yes, I was very lucky. Nobody said no. But I did feel like if somebody had said no, like I said, at least the seed was in their head. They knew about it, maybe for future events, which I didn't know at the time. But as things progress, for future events, maybe they'd see, oh, this is actually really big. They want to come. This has been popular. Or they might pass it on to somebody. And so, yes, Ashley, what I did was I wrote down, not verbatim like a script, but I wrote down what I wanted to ask from them and what I needed to put across to make sure that I had all like my metrics behind it, kind of my figures. So even though for the very first one, I didn't have any evidence, I did want to say what I was hoping for it to be, what I kind of foresaw for it, and just to get across what I felt like I was going to achieve, which was probably a bit ballsy. I didn't think of it that way. I thought it was just kind of presenting what I thought were the facts.
I love that, though, keeping it open-ended and kind of, you're almost nurturing that relationship, even if that person says no. If you think of something, or if your position changes, you can always come back, and I'm willing to, start that conversation back up.
And actually, the other thing I did for sponsors, so obviously if you don't run an events business, this is slightly different, but you can kind of work off the same concept, is what I did for sponsors was I anticipated, I must have had a no at some point, maybe I just remember the good.
You just blocked those out.
But what I said to everybody, what I anticipated saying to everybody was, I ran workshops at the events as well, so that like everybody who was a sponsor could run a workshop or like a talk on what they were doing. And I also invited speakers, like expert speakers and book authors. And so what I said to them was, if they weren't interested, I would still love for them to be involved in another way. So running a workshop or having a stall or something. And so I kind of had that in place as well. So it still kept that channel open. And because, like I said, it is about community and like thinking the bigger picture and what people kind of think of you and for the future, then I felt like that was still getting them involved and opening up that kind of engagement.
Ash, I have to share this comment with you because Ashley says, brass balls, lady boss. Love it. And then quickly, before we kind of close out the show, she wanted to know how you found your prospects for the first event.
So basically, I just kind of made a list of everybody who I thought they'd be amazing, they'd fit really well, and I wanted to work with. And that's still what I do now. Even though I'm not really involved in events anymore, if I want to be on like somebody's mastermind that I want to be involved with the next year, and when it opens up, and I've just kind of written his name down and been all over whatever he does so that he knows what my name is. And like hopefully when it opens, I'll get in touch. But basically I just wrote down people who I thought would be a good fit, who I thought might be big enough that they, would be able to fund themselves getting involved. And I just called them up. I honestly just worked my way through the list and called it up. And actually the first one, I only had 3 or 4 people on my list for sponsors. And I realized afterwards, actually, and that could have been way more. And that's what I did in the future. And then for stall holders and exhibitors and talk speakers and everything, I either called them in the same way, or I would reach out to them via email. And then kind of as marketing kind of started to upswing, then I would just reach out and say, if you do this, come and, get in touch. Or I would ask people who were getting involved, who were wanting to come and visit. I'd say, if you know any brands that you really love, or if you, if you want to see somebody who you buy from frequently at the event, give them give me their details, or let them know and tell them to get in touch with me. So, yeah.
I love it. All right. So before we sort of wrap up today's show, I would like to know if there's any one thing from your journey that you want people to take away from your story. What, like a piece of advice or a lesson that you've learned? Okay.
I think it would probably be, and this probably sounds really cheesy.
It's okay if it's easy, it still counts.
I honestly believe this. I just think if you want to do it, it's possible. Because I come across so many parent entrepreneurs who feel like because they've got children, or because they don't have enough time, or because it feels scary, or it's not what most people do, that it's terrifying. And I feel like I'm a single mom. I was 22 when I had my son. I moved across the country and I didn't know anybody, and I had never run a business before. And I still managed it. And
you are just raising the bar there.
It wasn't intentional. Like, I don't say this to kind of brag. I say this because as I've explained, it kind of all happened by accident. And even now that I run, I'm a business strategist, and I help people with marketing and growing their businesses, like growth strategies. This all came about organically, and it started off by accident, and then it grew through just kind of taking opportunities and being, inviting opportunities as well. And I feel like if I can make it happen with kind of the challenges that I have, then anybody can make it happen. And that's what I'd like people to take away. And that's what I try and show to other parent entrepreneurs that it really is okay and it really is possible, and you really can have your time with your kids and run a successful business. And it doesn't have to be really scary. It really can just be something that you do because you love it and you do because you want the best for your family. So, yeah, that's what I would share.
I love it. Perfect. And then where can people find you? I know you have a Facebook page, and then you also have a Facebook community as well. So if you want to share those out, and then we'll pop them in the links afterwards so that everyone can find you.
Thank you, Ariana. And I just would like to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And I'm sorry, I feel like I know this was an interview for me, but I feel like I should have asked you questions as well. I feel like this is me talking a lot. I know that's
No, this was completely about you. That's what these shows are for, is to share all of the different, I just love hearing the different stories. We're all entrepreneurs. Some of us are spouses, some of us are parents. And I think hearing all of the different journeys and how, each twist and turn is a new lesson for somebody else and their journey is just so, so powerful. So it was supposed to be all about you today. And I'm so glad we got to learn all that interesting stuff that I never knew.
It's great that you have the show that people can hear exactly what you say, how everybody comes at it from a different journey. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
So you can find me. My Facebook page is Emma Weatherall. That's my surname. So we'll pop it in the links, but it's just the same as who you're invited to watch today.
I'll show your name so everyone can see.
Cool. And then my community it's similar to Ariana's group, and it's for parent entrepreneurs, and we talk about how to grow your business. It's Intrepid Mama Community, which is just Facebook /groups/Intrepid Mama. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. Yay. It's been so, so nice to have you on. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and also for sharing all of your wisdom. Before I shut us off, I should probably double check and see if there were any other questions. But I think we covered them all. And then if you are watching the replay, please feel free to comment or ask a question after the fact and tag Emma and myself. And we will, of course, come back in and respond to your questions or your comments. So thank you, everyone, for watching today. This was episode 7 of our Member Stories series, and we'll be back with you next week for episode 8. Bye.